You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie? Did you use the wrong intro?
I did by accident. I'm like, wait a sec, which intro is this?
Oh my goodness!
Now I'm not
as hyped up.
It works though. It works. That intro is pretty good still.
True, it is.
Yo, what a show, man. I mean, I'm still trying to get over what what'd you say on Twitter?
Still processing.
Still processing. I mean, that's what happens, I guess, when you put the best players in the world, especially the ones that are having the best years, on a show for a major, decent money, and it just turns into a great show. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where you want to go and where you want to start with it, but I guess there's like so much to talk about.
Well, let's do our rundown. You know, that's mainly what we're here for tonight. We don't really have anything else to discuss. That's the only reason we went live tonight, is to break down the show. So let's do it Sweep the Rack style, and let's break down the show. And we will start by running the ladder. And let's talk matches here. You know, in our preview for this show, we said what you really wanted was for Belmo to get hot and make a little run. And then, you know, there was some debate about whether you'd rather see Belmo, Tackett, Simo, Tackett, etc. But you know, we got what we wanted. Early in so first match was Belmo Santu, right?
I want to talk a little bit about that match.
Surprising to me, first of all, to see Belmo come out with urethane. I was kind of shocked by that.
But my point was going to be is about 4 shots into it, or 4 frames, I should say, you started asking the question, why isn't Santu using urethane?
Because Motive doesn't even really have urethane.
Well, that's what my point was going to be, right? My point was going to be was Santu at a disadvantage this match due to the fact that he doesn't have a pitch black or a purple hammer to throw? Obviously, right?
Yeah, his ball reaction was horrendous.
Well, he was trying to play him left to right with a
crossed over twice in the first 5 frames or so,
something like that. But like, my whole point is, like, if Motive had a purple hammer type urethane, which is kind of unfair because purple hammer is like probably one of the best urethane balls ever made. But even a pitch black you could put in the top 2, right? The Motive doesn't have that urethane go-to ball that guys like Santu and AJ Johnson and EJ can throw. Now, EJ seems really unfazed by a lot of it this year, right? But you just saw a little bit of the disadvantage on why having that ball in your line completely makes a difference on a first match that, you know, was a essential fresh match, even though they practiced a ton on it.
Yeah, but I mean, ball reaction was the difference in that match. Period. Like, right. Santu, not real comfortable, kind of all over the place. You know, Belmo, very comfortable, controlling it. Actually, I felt like I didn't see this so much during the first game, but as the day went on and as the games went on, I think it was noticeable to me anyway in the second game. Like, Belmo spent the whole first game breaking them down the way he wanted them. Like, that's what he did the first game. And because Santu never really applied the pressure at all throughout that game, Belmo was able to do that in a very relaxed manner, you know, and sort of go out and leisurely play his game the way he wanted on that pair, break them down the way he wanted. And, you know, by the time you got to, you know, like halfway through game 2, it seemed like Belmo had set them up very nicely for himself. I mean, obviously that changed a little bit again deeper in the show against Simo somewhat, I would say, and then really showed itself against EJ. But
Is so question to you. Is Belmo the most dangerous fourth and fifth seed you could see on a stepladder TV pair?
yeah, I mean,
If he
yes,
down the way
yes,
he wants to, he gets comfortable, and it's. I mean, look what he did. Look what he did
yes,
last
because
major.
I think that trying to um, now keep in mind they're on the same pair, right? And that's a huge factor in that question because I feel like it has to be harder for other players to come on a pair and make a guess and then adjust as to how that pair was broken down with Belmo on it than with most players. I mean, I think there's other guys that I would put in in that category as well, like that you don't want to go bowl on a pair after they've bowled one or two or three games on that pair, and you don't have much practice to line up on that pair. But certainly Belmo is near the top of that list, and he might be number one on the list. Uh, you know, I think that his accuracy allows him to break them down very well the way that he wants them to because he can just repeat shots at such a high level that it actually does have a greater impact of kind of molding them to be the way that he wants them. But yeah, certainly if you have somebody like Belmo in the 5 seed or the 4 seed, and now you're the 3 seed and he won the game, and he has a good read on what's going on that pair, and you don't, you know, he already has the advantage, and that's just kind of stacking the advantage a little bit more, I would say. So, but again, not the only player that I would say that about. There's definitely a handful of players that I think you could say
Well,
that about.
you know what amazes me about Belmo? The more and more you watch him, and the more games he bowls on TV. And I personally love watching Belmo bowl 2, 3, 4 matches on TV because you see all the tricks in his toolbox that he uses through a 3 to 4 game set. And I mean by that is like, and if you really watch him very close, he was making such subtle adjustments with his ball speed, with his moves, with,
Loft.
with his loft, right? With his, he does so many little subtle like tricks that maybe the common like 150 average bowler wouldn't notice, but like
150. 250 average bowler couldn't do the shit he
oh,
does. I
fair
mean,
point. No, I
seriously,
mean like
a
not
lot of the
not
guys on tour
no 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 no
can't
no
do
no
the
no
kind
no.
of stuff he does.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying observe it when you're watching.
Oh, sure, not even notice it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
I mean, you see all the subtle tricks that he's doing to try to get his ball to do the what he wants to do, which separates him in a lot of those matches. So yeah, so I mean, we'll talk more about a lot of the tricks that I think he was doing that really helped him win lot of these matches today. But so he bowls Santu, right? Santu doesn't have a good look. It's noticeable from the minute that the show starts. Um, Belmo pretty easily wins that match. The score was a lot closer than the match actually was. Belmo had a lockdown in 10 frame. It was already over. Um, and then so Belmo goes to bowl Butturff, right? To me, this was the match that was interesting because Butturff, being the only lefty on the pair, had what, Belmo was, Butturff was able to try to break him down the way he wants to. And the match, in my opinion, really turned the corner in the fifth frame. So Butturff starts off spare, spare, double.
they both started out identical in that game.
They both started out hot. They were both close. Belmo gets up, and Belmo, I believe, it opens, I believe,
Yeah,
giving Butturff, who's on a double, a chance to really put the screws in him. And it always seems like when Buttriff has that opportunity to really take a match of the like stranglehold of the match, he just never makes the best quality shot. It seems that way. And I'm not saying all the time because obviously he won a title a few days ago. So like he's, had a really great showing on TV. But in those moments where he really can put the screws in Belmo, and it seems like a lot of bowlers against Belmo, what do we call it? The Belmo effect, right? Where they really have the opportunity to put the screws in Belmo when Belmo makes a mistake or he opens or he doesn't make a great shot. His opponents always seem not to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the history to see the complete accuracy of that. But yeah, I just, to me, it's like Butturff doesn't really have that killer instinct. You know, even in the title he won this week, he had a chance to lock it down, and he gave Tackett the
Right.
opportunity to
Right.
win
Well, that's what I was saying, right?
by throwing a not so great shot to close out the game. Obviously we've talked about the unsuredness of his spare shooting sometimes as well. We've seen that rear its head on some shows in the past for him, but yeah, for me, this match just came down to buckling down at the end of the game, and making your best shots as the game went on. Like they were even in the beginning part of the game, and then at one point, Butturff actually had the advantage in the match because Belmo went up and opened with a split, and you're right. Instead of going up and really putting his foot on Belmo's throat, he goes 8 spare, and
Right.
kind of lets him hang around. And then when you get later in the match and he leaves that 6-8, which was an unfortunate leave and was a bad break, call it whatever you will, but that then opened the door. That opened the door for Belmo to come and win that game and win that match. I mean, I definitely feel like Butturff lost an opportunity there.
Yeah. Oh, Butturff
He
had that match.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to make that big of a deal of it because it's Belmo that he's bowling against, and anytime you give him even this, he's probably going to kick the door open with it. But yeah, let's be honest. Butturff had the match. Butturff had the match in control almost the entire match, and as happens with Belmonte a lot, opening at the end of the match, boom, kicks open the door, does whatever he needs to do to lock that match up. So, wasn't surprised in the least to see him take advantage of it the way he did in that game. But yeah, I agree. A little bit of a missed opportunity for Butturff there.
How good is Belmo like under pressure, throwing shots when he needs it at the end of the game? I feel like he just is. He loves doing it, and it's pretty incredible how good he is at the end of the game when it's like, oh, he needs a strike to win. It's just like he's gonna throw it up really good most of the time. I've seen him maybe a couple times where he like left a PBA washout. I believe my most recent memory of him needing a shot. That might be the league maybe, but like Belmo when it comes to like majors, right, and him needing a shot to win in these matches on TV, he seems to just like really buckle down and throw pretty good shots.
I'll tell you what. I mean, I've noticed this for a little while now, but I've failed to find a way to verbalize what the difference is between Belmo and a lot of the other guys on these shows. And to me, what it is that Belmo is at a level now where, and I would say Simo is probably here too. I feel this way with Simo too, but Belmo is at a level now where he has spent so much time in these spots of majors and big, $100,000 prize tournaments that I really believe things move slower for him than the other players on the show. Like one of the things you hear about being on these shows and making a show is, the game goes so quickly. The game goes so quickly. Now, I'm not saying that's true the same as it is for a Joe Grondin, as it is for a Jacob Butturff or an EJ Tackett or somebody of that nature. However, I also don't think it's the same for someone like Belmo or maybe Simo and everybody else. Because what I notice about Belmo is that he just stays calm. He just stays calm. The beginning of the game is like, okay, like we're waiting until we get to the 7th, 8th, 9th frame to really see where we're at and see how things are going to develop. And if you do not put your foot on his throat, he is going to come and chase you down. He's just going to keep coming and coming and coming, and eventually he's going to chase you down. I have a great appreciation for him being the king of the re-rack at this point. I mean, see, like, that's what I like, the fact that he has the mental wherewithal to know, hey, this is a huge shot. Let me take the extra time here with a re-rack. Let me keep my opponent on the bench, and keep him cold with this re-rack. It's those little things that I notice where he never gets too fast. His mind never seems like it's racing in these situations where a lot of other guys might just get up and throw the shot. He really takes the extra few seconds to make sure that he's doing things the way that he wants to do them. And it's impressive. It is. It's impressive, and I think it has a lot to do with his recent success on these shows.
Yeah, Belmo reminds me of like when I used to watch Floyd Mayweather box. Floyd Mayweather would really, the first 2-3 rounds, he would just kind of sit back, real relaxed, just kind of feel his opponent out, just setting him up essentially. And then, the final last 4 or 5 rounds, you'd see Floyd Mayweather start picking his opponent apart. So I think Belmo has a little bit of like, let's just kind of like figure things out. Let's relax and, let's start really coming like ahead when he really needs to in the second half of the game.
To me, it's like I mean, I know this is kind of a weird comparison, but Belmo reminds me of an NFL coach who really never panics. Right. Always makes the right decision, clock management wise, play calling wise, even when it's the most intense time in the game, the most intense game itself, the most important game, still able to keep their head clear and make those important decisions. And listen, I mean, any of us who have bowled know how easy it is to have an unclear head, especially in those positions, those pressure situations, those big moments, right? And yeah, I think that he has so much experience in moments like that it's easier for him to keep a clear head, to keep focus on what's going on, and again, I think that it makes we're never going to know what's going on inside a PBA bowler's head, right? It would be really interesting if we could hook up like my neuron reading transmitters or something and really hear what's going on in their head. But
I don't want to hear that.
But like, seriously, I mean, it would be so interesting to me to hear what kind of thoughts are going through their heads, and I just think that his thought process is a little bit different than a lot of these guys, especially in these bigger situations. So just something that I noticed. But all right, so Belmonte advances past Butturff. Right, a good match. Felt like Butturff should have won. Belmonte escapes a little bit, but listen, we all get what we want. Belmo moves on to bowl Simo, and now you got the 3 top bowlers in the world, I would say, are left in the top and longest major in the PBA season, right? So this is what we wanted. It's set up very nicely. Belmo, prime, making a run, and now he's got to go up against Simo, and the winner gets Tackett to see if anyone is going to challenge Tackett for the Player of the Year race, right? Either way, whether it's Simo or whether it's Belmo, they both had a shot to challenge him. All right, let's talk about the Belmo Simo match. But first, somebody mentioned this in the chat too. Let's talk about the Simo press conference. I know you wanted to talk about that. I know you wanted to bring it up.
Man, I wasn't sure about the whole press conference thing, like when they were doing it. But after watching that Simo press conference, and if nobody's watched it yet, go and check it out. I don't know where you could check it out. Somewhere. If you
It's
follow
on
us
the
on
PBA
Twitter,
YouTube channel.
PBA YouTube channel. If you follow us on Twitter, I retweeted it. Um, and so they asked him a bunch of questions. It was right after.
No, it was only 3 questions.
No, they asked
It
him
was
a
only
bunch of
2 or 3
questions,
questions.
and he no commented, and he
That was
literally
only 2 or
walked
3
out.
questions. Phil Brylow asked him 2 or 3 questions. Each question he said no comment. Phil asked him another question. He said no comment, and then Phil was like, "Okay, thanks for the time, Anthony," and then he just walked out, and that was it.
Dude, I freaking love that. I think that's hilarious. Um, he really wants to set himself up so that people like think he's like the villain in a way, and I'm here for it. I love every minute of it. I defended him wholeheartedly on Twitter. I had people that were calling him an asshole and oh, he handled that terribly and whatnot. Man, let the kid cook, man. Let the kid be himself. If he doesn't want to talk, he doesn't want to answer questions, then screw it. Don't answer them. I don't care that you watch these pro athletes do that shit all the time when these when the media is asking them questions in the like worst possible moments and possible time. The kid doesn't want to make a comment on a question. I'm here for it. I love it. I think it's stuff that the PBA needs, believe it or not. I think him answering those questions, those boring vanilla questions, Mike, and just real PC type answers is really not going to be memorable. But for him to do what he did and how he did it, to me, is a lot more memorable. And people would probably watch that clip, and there'd probably be more views and more clicks on that clip than if he were to actually have answered those questions.
Yeah, people in the chat are saying it seemed like word was getting around that his no comments were in response to his displeasure with the amount of practice that was given before the roll-off to determine the second and third seed on this show. Him and Butturff tied for the second and third seed. So they had to have a roll-off to determine who was going to be the 2 seed and who was going to be the 3 seed.
Practice.
And they awarded 5 minutes of practice before. And I guess Simo felt like that maybe there shouldn't be any practice, or there should only be a couple balls practice, or whatever it was. Yeah, shit. I love it. I love it. I mean, I wish they would all speak freely. I wish they would all act freely,
Speak
because
freely by not speaking.
behind the scenes, you know, there was a lot of displeasure with what went on at the World Series of Bowling the last 2 weeks. Right? We didn't get into it too much here. We talked a little bit about it on our last show, but lane breakdowns, the quality of the bowling center, the fact that there were 5 on a pair, the fact that they let way more guys in from the PTQ, and then there were 5 on the pair. These were all things that the lane conditions themselves. These were all things that a lot of guys, a lot of bowlers out there on tour were frustrated with this week. And, you don't hear much about it unless you're kind of plugged in behind the scenes. Now watching Brad and Kyle's vlog this week, it was pretty obvious. Like those two are the positive of the positive. Okay. So to hear them say something other than positive about the center and the conditions and what was going on, I mean, that's more shocking to me than hearing Simo no comment at the end of a really tough, frustrating week that ended for him with a decision that he didn't really agree with.
Wouldn't you love to see, though, a guy like Simo sit there and speak freely in all the topics that you just hit on, and maybe think to himself, okay, I'll probably end up getting fined for what I'm about to say, or maybe I mean, I don't think he'd get suspended. I think he'd get fined, But wouldn't you like to see him just sit and actually voice his displeasure in some of the stuff that he saw instead of no commenting? Or is it just kind of him no commenting, meaning like, I'm showing displeasure with the PBA. I'm showing displeasure with all these things, but by saying no comment, and you can't find me by me saying no comment, essentially.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, why, I mean, clearly we already know that if they say something negative, Tom Clark is going to take the opportunity to find them. So that's why you see so much PC positivity out there. And listen, if that's his way, if that's Simo's way of expressing his displeasure, so be it. I give him credit for having the gumption to in some way express his displeasure with what's going on.
But isn't
Now
that like
would I
players?
rather that they be allowed to openly express themselves, and instead of no commenting, he be allowed to say, I thought it was bullshit that they gave 5 minutes practice, and here's why. Yes, I do. I feel like they should allow that. And I don't think he should get fined for something like that. But clearly, we see what the history is, right?
I mean, isn't that something? And Dave brought this up in the chat. Isn't this something where the player reps need to, like, when they sit down with the PBA, or bring it to the PBA brass and say, "Hey, Tom, hey, you know, PBA executives, here is a bunch of bullshit items that we dealt with at Wauwatosa this past 2 weeks. Could we make improvements and try to get better in these, like, facets of the game of what happened this week or last 2 weeks?"
Yeah, but see, in saying that, you are assuming that there's a board or something, a group of people at Bolero that actually care to hear these things.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about PBA. You don't think the PBA cares? Like Tom Clark doesn't care about
I
the
think
PBA
Tom
players'
Clark
concerns?
cares. I think Tom Clark cares, but outside of that, no. I mean, the PBA is Bolero, and the Bolero is PBA. Okay, so let's be clear that if you're talking about who the players would be talking to, they'd be talking to Bolero,
But
right?
isn't it
And
Tom Clark's job to, like, bring that to Bolero and be like, "Hey, like, we need better lane surfaces." I'm just saying that as one of the examples. Like, we
no,
need.
not if he wants to keep his job. I feel like because
He's covering his ass.
because how is he supposed to have an adversarial relationship with Bolero, and they're going to keep him in as the
No,
commissioner?
no, no,
Do
no,
you
no,
think
no.
they want somebody in that spot who's going to be a squeaky wheel, or do you think they want someone in that spot that's just going to put out the fires and rubber stamp anything that Bolero wants to do and keep things moving along?
I mean, yeah. So that's a big problem. So why don't the players unionize? Why don't the players form a union?
I don't. I mean, I don't even know what would be. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what would be the intent for that or what the result of that would be.
I'll tell you, it would be a lot of shit would happen if that happened. I would imagine.
I think Bolero would shut down the PBA tour if that happened.
I'm telling you, it would start a ton of shit if the players decided to get together and unionize over shit. But, like, I mean, look, like, a lot of players, there's a lot of stuff they would probably want, like, demand, right? This is a whole nother story, whole nother road we're going down, Mike. And I don't know if we want to go down this road. Maybe we'll talk more about this on a future date.
Yeah, but Nico has a point here in the chat. He says, "How can you run a 2 week event, professional event too, Nico? Right, a 2 week professional event, and not make sure your equipment, your center is up to date and clean and working?" And I agree. And I think I'll add to that question. Like, isn't it fair that the players would be a little upset if that weren't the case? I mean, these are professionals. Like, they expect to be competing in conditions, centers, etc., that reflect that. And if that's not the case, then I don't think it's a surprise that the players are going to be upset. So,
Mike, could you
and we're
imagine?
talking about Bolero here. So we all have experiences with what their reputation is in terms of taking care of their centers and cleanliness and keeping them up to date in terms of being extremely worthy of competitive competition, etc. So, listen, if I were one of the players, I'd probably be frustrated too. Um, you know, Again, I wish that the PBA weren't so heavy-handed and would let them express some of their frustrations. I think it would make for more drama. I think it would make for, somebody mentioned in the chat, oh, press conferences are great, but then they want to take the drama and the interesting piece away from the press conferences. And I agree with that. Let the guys show a little bit more of what they're really thinking or what they really want to say.
Yeah, so it was an interesting press conference just in general because that was the first time I've ever seen a player not answer questions from anybody that's asked him. Like most of the time, and I'm talking 99.9% of the time, Mike, when a media essentially one person asks them questions, the pros always are answering questions. They're always really good about it. You never see any really any kind of controversy when players are getting asked. So
Well,
Simo
yeah,
would,
I mean, you're also talking to the guys that are winning too, right? In those press
that's a fair point.
conferences. So
That's a fair point.
you're not you're not going to hear outright discontent in many of those press conferences because these are the guys who are winning. And
Right.
I'll say this, listen, and a lot of people probably aren't going to like that I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's true as can be. All the bitching and complaining about the lane surfaces, the conditions, the facilities, the approaches, the 5 on a pair. There was a lot of bitching this week. Yes, a lot of things to complain about. But who do we end up with as our final
Yeah.
three? The
Your
best three
best four.
bowlers in the world who have been the best three bowlers in the world for the last few years. And it's almost like it doesn't matter if you bowl in a freaking parking lot with socks on, okay, and 50-year-old pins, which was another complaint I heard this week that there weren't new pins in the center for the World Series of Bowling, which again seems like a simple thing. Like you want to make the players happy. You want to make the players take notice that you're making an effort. Get new pins in the machine for the World Series of Bowling. But, yeah, it still ended up with the 3 best bowlers in the world. So
Right.
I
Right.
don't know. I mean, is there is there legitimacy to these things, or is it just
Crime.
bowlers being excuse-laden crybabies? I mean,
I
we
think it
have
could
a
be both.
reputation to be that way, right? So,
Maybe a
like,
little bit.
I don't know. I'm asking. I'm not saying. I'm asking. But I will also say, to be fair, that if I were a professional athlete at anything, be it basketball, golf, bowling, whatever, I would expect that when I show up to compete, I'm competing in the nicest conditions you can possibly create or imagine for that sport.
That's a fair point. Okay, so to the Simo match. Let's talk the match itself, Mike.
Hold on,
Tell
I just want to highlight this comment
Okay.
by Zangi. Simply explaining the rules and the distinction of their importance is all that is needed. Yet they run to the must be positive mode. Seems they are okay with having a villain player, even if it is based on misinformation. Okay, all right, fair enough. But again, like, how are the players, um, how are the players supposed to express themselves about these issues, right? When again, it seems based on past experience that the PBA isn't going to allow them to do it.
It's true. It's a fair point. So, okay, let's get to the match because this match, in my opinion, the match really came down to Simo not being able to figure out the left lane. Like Simo, he's got balls of steel on the TV
Was it
screen.
that, or was it starting with urethane on the right lane?
Well,
Because on the right lane, isn't the right lane the lane where he left the split early after Belmo split early?
it was, but then he couldn't
So
strike on the left lane when it really came down
I
to the
know when it
wire.
really counted. I know, but like that ball switch on the left lane, was sort of like a desperation ball switch to
Well,
me
he
in a way.
switched on the right lane. He didn't switch on the
I
left.
know,
He
no,
stayed
he
with
switched
urethane.
on the right lane early, but he switched on the left lane late.
Oh, the 10th frame though.
I know, and that's why I'm saying it was sort of desperation. I got to do something here.
Yeah, because
I
goes,
have
well,
to
then
strike. I got
I
to
know.
double. I'm also going to need help from the serial killer Jason over here.
Yeah.
Okay, and I got to make the switch and see what happens. So I'm writing off that shot in the 10th.
Well, he made a few
he
good
was
shots.
he was making an educated guess as best he could on that shot in the 10th.
Yep.
The move on the right lane to go to urethane earlier in the game was clearly something that he had looked at, planned out, got to look at while he was practicing, because he knew exactly what he was doing on that right lane when he went to that urethane, and it looked a lot better than the I'm sorry, on that right lane when he went to the reactive rather than the urethane, because it looked a lot better than the urethane. And I'll be honest, I think that to me, the decision that impacted that match there was him starting with the urethane on the right lane. To me, if he starts with that phase 2 on the right lane, perhaps he never leaves that split early in the game with urethane on that right lane, and that would have changed the whole complexion of that game.
What if he started the whole match throwing the phase 2, both lanes?
Could have been a lot different too. But again, his look with the urethane on that left lane looked good all the way through that match until the 8th frame on that lane.
Yeah, but he wasn't
decided
striking on
to
that
make that
left lane.
change.
He
Okay,
wasn't carrying
fair
either.
fair point. No, you're right. But able to execute and hit the pocket, right?
You see, I think what happened is when he switched to the performance on the right lane, he should have switched and threw that on the left lane. Like, he should have just got out of urethane in general. But I mean, look, like I said, it's easy to sit back here and talk about what he should have done right.
Left lane was tricky.
It's
That
tricky,
left lane was
right?
tricky, right?
And
So
dude, I give the kid credit though. That kid's got balls of steel. He will make adjustments. He will make moves. Dude, he switches in the 10th frame. Literally,
it's
I
sick.
mean, the kid. All the props to Simo. The kid,
he's got better commitment to what he's doing,
right,
than I think I've ever seen from any bowler ever.
Right.
I mean,
that's the thing is, like,
it's so hard to do that too.
Oh, it's.
I mean, I will spend a game and a half
Yeah.
arguing with myself about, is this the right moves? Do I change? I don't know. I just maybe I just have to throw it a little bit better. That one was a little fast. No, let's not make the change. And my man, who repeats it at a world-class level, just makes the change like that.
He does. And that's the thing is he's not afraid. He's not afraid to make the moves. He's committed. He understands he understands his adjustments. He understands his ball changes better than anybody. And it's commendable, and I think that's why he eventually will be one of the best bowler, or if not the best bowler in the world. He's 26 years old, and this kid's got, like, his future ahead of him is unbelievable. What he can do with a bowling ball and his moves and his adjustments. But so Belmo gets through that match, right, making shots coming down the stretch, right, making just unbelievable shots in the 10th frame when he needs it. And
again, that match to me was very much like the Butturff Belmo match, right? They were both very similar matches where, it was even all throughout the match. It was close all throughout the match, and it came down to last couple frames, who has it figured out better, who's going to have that look to finish off the game, and it happened to be Belmo. Interesting question here again from Nico. Do you think Belmo should have switched to the reality check after he finished off Simo? I don't know about the ball. I'm not going to make a guess about the ball, but I was surprised that what was it in that game? He needed the first one in the 10th, or a mark of any kind, right, to beat Simo, and he threw a strike. He threw a strike on the first one.
He did,
and I believe he still threw the urethane ball in the second shot in the 10th there. And I was really surprised that he didn't get a look at something.
No, because he needed count, I think. And you think he needed a high count.
Yeah, but he only needed the count through two shots.
Oh.
So, yeah, he didn't need count on the one.
So we'll talk about the final match, because obviously that's what we do here, right? We speculate what he could have done and what he should have done. It's easy for us to sit back knowing that he lost.
We armchair quarterback, the best bowlers in the world. I know. That's what we do here.
We're keyboard warriors here at Sweep the Rack. we sit here and say what they should have and could have done. But that's what sports analysts do, right? And I don't want to call ourselves analysts, but it's easy to sit back and say, well, you should have done this or you should try this. But so he gets through the Simo match. The final match, though, and I want to kind of get into that, to me was a very interesting match in the fact that Belmo was in that match probably a lot more than he should have been. He tripped two 4-pins on the left lane. I felt like he was just skating on the edge, Mike. He was skating on the edge. I think the urethane kind of came back to him in that last game. He was barely, and I say barely in a weird way, he was barely striking, Mike. I mean, he was really high flush. He was skating with like 4-pins, and he just seemed to be really on the edge of a really big split or making a big mistake. And it really happened in the worst time for him when he left that 3-6-10. You know what I mean? Because
the way he was making that ball strike, you talked about it earlier, the little adjustments he was making. And people in the chat are saying that we're incorrect, Rob, that Belmo did throw the reality check in the 11th and 12th shot after he shut Simo out. Okay, so I'll be honest. I didn't notice that. It looked like he was still throwing the same ball.
I don't remember.
If that's the case, then clearly there's something he saw that made him stick with urethane going into that last game. I agree with the people in the chat. I was rather surprised that he stuck with urethane going into that last game. I felt like a big move was coming. I felt like he was going to move left and start hooking it and probably switch to reactive, because even at the end of the Simo game, you could tell that the urethane was starting to labor and starting to struggle a little bit. But you listen, if you don't understand why Belmo is one of the best to ever do it after watching that match today, then you're not watching closely enough. Okay? Because the small micro type adjustments that he was making to keep that ball striking, okay, 100%. was just the stuff. It was the stuff that unless you've done it yourself, unless you've been there, unless you know that side of the game, you just don't you don't understand it. He got a little bit lucky. He got a little bit of good fortune, but let's also be honest. He had to throw those shots to get that good fortune. Okay, so he just stayed in it and stayed in it and stayed in it, and this show was an amazing. Let's be clear, this show was one of the best PBA shows I've ever personally watched. I don't remember too many shows that had this kind of lineup of bowlers combined with these tight matches and back and forth and the result that we saw at the end. So really, really interesting to me that in this last match, in this last game, again, sort of like the Butturff Belmo, sort of like the Simo Belmo match, right, with the evenness. But to me, the difference in this game was that it was all good shots. It was all shots that were in the pocket. There weren't a lot of neither player was really giving much opening early in the game, right? Whereas in those other games, you would see some exchange early in the game of opening. But yeah, Belmo just kept getting up and applying max pressure to EJ Tackett and saying, here, I doubled. Now you got to go up and double to stay with me. And Tackett just kept getting up and kept doubling. He just kept doubling. I was just waiting. I was waiting, especially on that left lane. It seemed tighter. It seemed tighter down the lane. He tripped a bucket early on that lane in the first frame, so you knew they were tighter on that lane. The right lane was hooking more, and he kept getting it right on that right lane, and the ball was screaming back, okay? And I just kept waiting. After Belmo would double, I kept saying to myself, oh, here it is. It's coming. he's going to put the max pressure on Tackett here. Tackett's going to miss, and that's going to give Belmo just that extra little lead that he needs to where at the end of the game he wasn't going to have to keep striking. You understand what I'm saying? I really felt that EJ was going to give him that out to where he was going to do enough with the look that he had to put himself in the position where at the end of the game he was ahead by enough where even if he had a spare in the 8th or 9th or 10th frame, he was still going to be able to win.
I think to
Tackett's credit, he never gave him that shot.
The one thing EJ did that I think kept him out of trouble, that he would normally be in more trouble, is the fact that he was able to play them more right than he normally does, and he was able to pick up his ball speed. I think that's what kept him out of trouble. Normally, we see Tackett probably maybe a lot more left and trying to open up the lane, slowing it down, getting it more left to right. But for some reason, and this is why he's, one of the best in the world, is he was able to move right and really play up the lane. We normally don't see him doing it, but keep his ball speed up. His really was throwing the ball harder, in my opinion, than I've normally seen him on other shows. Even like in the 10th frame when he got up to need those, unbelievable shots he made to win, I felt like him being on top of the push really helped that ball not like hit sideways off the back of the pattern for him to go through the nose. So, I give all the credit to EJ for winning. I believe not playing his A game, Mike. He really was playing seemed like his B game, like beating Belmonte, playing him a lot harder and a lot less angle through the front part of the lane.
Still had that purple ball in his hand though, and whenever he's got that purple ball in his hand with the snake on it, I always feel like he's going to feel comfortable with whatever he's doing.
I was surprised he was throwing that, Mike. So here EJ's throwing a pretty longer, stronger ball than Belmo is playing. I mean, they were completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum, playing like equipment-wise, right? And the match literally goes down to the last two shots in a 10 frame. So, Belmo was skating with a lot of trouble that match. Really coming in high, tripping 4 pins, and then he'd make a few good shots, and then trip another 4 pin. And here Tackett
was it against Tackett or Simo that he shot the pin over the 7 and then it came back and hit it?
It was the Simo match. It was like the beginning of the match.
Okay. Yeah. The EJ match was the trip 4s, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of felt like at that moment, like the Belmo gods were with him, and when that happens, like there's no beating Belmo when he's tripping 4 pins and tripping 7 pins and throwing messengers, all that stuff. But EJ, and I was really surprised that EJ was still able to throw a big game because his ball reaction wasn't the best, Mike. It really wasn't. I mean, you could see, and you're right, he was going to, in my opinion, eventually, like you felt like he was going to leave a 10 pin or he was going to leave like a 4-9, or something in that nature. And shouts to him, man. He threw when he needed it. Freddie for the cheddar.
And I'll be honest, like after he tripped that bucket on that left lane to start, I thought, oh, there's no way he's winning this game.
So here's a great question. And I have to pull this up because this is kind of a cool question. What ball do you think has won the most ever money on the PBA tour? I think you're gonna have to go back to like the 70s or the 80s. I think like a black rhino.
When guys threw the same.
Yeah.
When guys threw the same ball over and over again.
Maybe a bleeder or a Manhattan rubber or something like that.
Blue hammer.
Blue hammer.
Blue urethane hammer might be up there. Teal Rhino Pro might be up there.
Yeah.
Purple.
The new
I don't know.
hammer.
You also have to take a look at what some of the biggest prizes were. Like what was Mika using when he won for $250,000?
It was the 250. It was the Ebonite. It was the because they made the ball the 250K.
Yeah. What was Barnes using when he won the Motel Road? Road to Riches, Motel 6 Road to Riches. What was Kyle Troop using when he won $250,000? Because that could make a big difference on it too. But yeah, interesting. That's something we should get into when we have less to talk about for sure. Yep. Let's bring up a couple comments here. One from Nico. Nico's on fire tonight with the comments. Is it fair to say that EJ doesn't need to switch companies and that wasn't his issue? I know we speculated that he should switch away from Motive. Somebody showed up before the show started to say, I had a shit take that EJ should switch from Motive. I forget who it was, but shout to that person for showing up early to tell me I had a shit take. You know, people are going to think that I'm trolling here by saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'll be honest, I felt this way.
You're dying on the hill, huh? You're dying on this hill?
Yeah, I am. I have felt this way for quite a few weeks now in the PBA tour. And, again, people are going to think I'm nuts. People are going to think, oh, he's a hater. He's this, he's that. I think that because they have been bowling in environments that hook so much, where the lanes hook so early and so much, and because the Motive balls in general are not real responsive to friction in many, many instances with their balls, I actually think that throwing Motive this year on tour has probably been more of an advantage than a disadvantage for somebody like EJ Tackett. Especially somebody like EJ who really has that rev rate to where even if he's using something that probably doesn't hook as much as it needs to, you're not going to see it as greatly as you might with some other players that don't have that hand and don't have that rev rate, don't have his type of game. We've seen quite a bit of success from Motive this year on tour. Okay, quite a bit of success. I mean, Nathan Bohr made the World Championship Finals. Santu was in the show. AJ Johnson was in the show. Obviously, EJ kind of dominated the World Series. There's a couple other guys. There's a couple other guys that I could say that about too. But again, I think that because they're bowling on surfaces, conditions, etc., that hook a lot. The fact that some of these guys are throwing Motive, I think, has become more of an advantage. So I think it's more interesting to refer to EJ's mental struggles on the show and how he's overcome that, and kind of put a fork in that conversation than it has anything to do with the bowling balls in my own personal opinion.
Yeah, and like I said earlier in the show, Mike, the only really issue I have right now with Motive and some of their equipment is the fact that they don't have that gold medal like urethane ball that the other two big brands have. Brunswick has their Purple Hammer and Storm has their Pitch Black, and Motive doesn't have that go-to urethane ball. They've been trying to make these hybrid urethane type covers where they've actually marketed the fact that they weren't urethane, but unfortunately those balls, you don't see a lot of those being thrown here and there, but I think those are even too responsive for what Pitch Blacks and Purple Hammers do on those patterns. So other than that, I agree with you. Okay, Mike, let's get into our awards here, unless there's something else you kind of want to go into.
Let's talk about one thing here before. I mean, EJ Tackett's the player of the year, right?
Yeah,
it's done.
There's no
it's
question.
done now.
It's done. The award is over.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what happens at the Players
in
2 weeks. It's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
He deserves it, man. Listen, I went back today after I got done watching the show, and I basically looked up the title list for Earl Anthony, Walter Ray, and Belmo. Okay. And this season, EJ Tackett's season this season, Walter Ray never had a season like EJ Tackett's having this season. Earl Anthony never had a season like EJ Tackett's having this season. Belmo, I think it could be argued, has had a couple seasons that rival what EJ is doing. I mean, Belmo has a couple seasons where he won 3 majors in a season. Okay. He has multiple seasons where he won 2 majors in a season. All right. This is some historical shit we're watching with EJ Tackett. You don't see seasons like this on the regular. He has dominated this season and put himself in that top spot with a separation between him and second.
Which is
And
crazy
you
because
you don't often see that.
Simonson would have won a probably Player of the Year award in any other year if he had these type of numbers.
Nico saying Roth won 7 titles in one season. Yeah, Walter Ray had a couple seasons like that as well where he won 6 or 7 titles. But here's the thing, Nico, multiple majors in the season too. With which to me, I know that it's probably moving the goalpost at this point, but I feel like with all the emphasis that has been put on majors recently, it makes what Tackett has done this season even better.
So yeah, so no, I agree. It's a historic season, and I'm honored as a fan to be watching it. To be honest with you, and not to toot my own horn, Mike, but he was my prediction to win Player of the Year when the year started. I know it wasn't the completely out of the norm pick, but I kind of felt like he was on the verge when I made that pick of doing some really really great stuff with the way he was always around and always making shows, and he did win a Player of the Year a couple of years back, so it wasn't like I was completely shooting out of my left asshole with that pick. But man, I didn't think he was going to have the year he's having. I mean, who could have predicted that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and people in the chat making a good point. Another argument here, and again, this is like very statistical, and we'd have to look at things and break things down. Like when you talk about some of the great seasons that Roth had, or Earl Anthony had, or Walter Ray had, a lot of those seasons they had 30-plus shots at a title. Whereas in this season, EJ doesn't have nearly as many shots at a title, and he if you broke it down by win percentage, he's probably winning at a much greater percentage than those guys were too. So
yeah.
It's funny to me though, because was it on one of the TV shows recently? I forget if it was one of the TV shows or if I saw it on YouTube or something. But Kimberly Pressler went around, or no, wait, it was one of the vlogs. It might have been Tang's vlog. It was Darren Tang's vlog, and they went around and asked who's the best bowler in the world right now. And it was before this event concluded, right? But almost all the players interviewed said Simonson. And listen, I got to give EJ Tackett his flowers, bro. The dude is the best bowler on the planet right now. Let's be clear. He may not be the most versatile, but he's definitely the best. And he has absolutely earned that this season. I'm now wondering, with this $100,000 win today, and obviously
was it 100? I thought it was 50.
100 grand today.
Was it
100 grand today? Yeah.
Okay.
With this win today, I don't know what the total number is, but does Tackett have any chance going into next week to break Kyle Troop's earnings record from a couple years ago, where Troop won the $250,000 event and set the earnings record? I want to take a look at that this week. I want to see that.
Yeah, crazy.
So great performance by EJ Tackett. That was one for the books, man. That was one of the biggest doubles in PBA history. In fact, that last match, it brought me to mind of a match from when we were kids, Rob, and we were watching bowling when we were teenagers. And that match was Mike Albee against Bob Spalding. Okay, I forget what the tournament was, but it was a major. And Albee was not only bowling for the major, but he was bowling to complete the Grand Slam as well. And man, it was just a back and forth slugfest where Albee caught a couple breaks here and there, and Spalding was just throwing great shot after great shot and ringing some tens and catching a bad break. Okay, and Albee got up there in the 10th and needed a double to win it, and he doubled and he won it, and that I just remember watching that at the time. and thinking, man, like, how much more pressure could Mike Albee have on him? He's bowling for the title. He's bowling for the money. He's bowling for the Triple Crown. And I felt the same way about Tackett today. That double, it was not only for the World Championship. It was not only for $100,000. It was also against Belmo. It was also for Player of the Year. How much more can you have riding on one double? So amazing, just an amazing clutch performance. Amazing to get up there and throw that double with all of that riding on it. Bowling with the Pfeff is in the building. Bowling with the Pfeff, what's good? If you guys don't check out his content, check it out. He puts out a lot of good shit. How many people will ever get to say they got up in the 10th frame, championship match in a major, needing a strike to lock out Belmo, and did it, and win Player of the Year, Pfeff? And win Player of the Year on top of that.
You know what?
Okay?
And I'm sure he wasn't thinking of any of it when he got up to do that double. I'm sure his mind was clear as...
You know what he was thinking about? He was thinking about Belmo giving him the trying to rattle him. Tell me that wasn't the case. Tell me that was a Rob Pierishad move by Belmo after he doubled there by just rattling his cage, and Belmo was done. He doesn't care anymore, and he's not even winning, but he's giving him the boom, and he's telling him, and you could see after Tackett threw that double, my man wanted that shit.
He did.
He
And
he wanted that shit.
I was there for it too, and I loved every minute of it that Belmo was, because you know what, dude, I would have gave it to him 10 times fold of what Belmo gave him. I mean, it would have been nasty. It would have been rowdy. People wouldn't have liked me. And if he got up and he doubled to beat me, I would expect him to give it back to me even 10 times more than I gave it to him. But that's where the entertainment and that's where the fun would be, and that's where the fans would never forget that shit. And you know what? It was great, and I loved it. It was awesome. They were able to give each other emotion. They did it. I would have liked to see them do it a little bit more, but hey, what an amazing it was just awesome to watch. Essentially,
a lot of good comments in the chat here.
Yeah, I love it. Belmo
always a lot of good comments. Tom Gorman wants to hear the uncensored part after he threw the. So do I, right? Tom.
I know, me too.
So do I.
Me too.
I want to hear that uncensored part too. And you know what? Like, can I be honest? I feel like that's one thing that's missing from the booth in the show. Is like, we want drama on the shows, right, Rob? And me, you and I agree. There's a lot of times there's not a lot of drama in these shows because these guys are friendly and they hug before the match and they hug after the match and all this. But like, the drama in bowling exists in the small details. The drama in these matches, in these shows, exists in the small details. It's about when a guy takes a re-rack. It's about when a guy decides to put tape in his ball or not. It's about when a guy finishes the game and gets hyped for the first time all game when his opponent has to get up and throw a double. I wish the announcers would make it a little more clear to the audience that, like, what Belmo did there, is like an NBA player giving the Matumbo wag finger in the face of another player, standing over a guy after you dunked on him and saying, "What are you going to do now?" Right? And I think that gets lost because the average bowler, the average fan, the casual fan doesn't understand the intricacies of what they're doing out there, right? And I think some explanation is needed there.
Yeah, see, look, I don't mind them hugging and shaking after. Like, hey, man, okay. Last night I watched the Gervonta Davis fight before Ryan Garcia, right? Dude, leading up to that fight and even during that fight, dude, these guys were talking unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw the press conference for that. Yeah.
I mean, it was nasty for a while. I mean, they really did a good job promoting, hyping up that match. And then after the fight's over, it's all love, it's all business, right? It happens all the time in boxing, right? But it hooks you as a fan. You're like, oh man, these guys don't like each other. You see that in the UFC all the time. Oh man, these guys don't like each other. That's why the Diaz brothers are so much fun to watch because they do such a good job hyping up their fights because they talk so much shit and it gets nasty in a lot of times. Now, I'm not saying bowling needs that, but bowling needs that, Mike. Like, I'm not saying they need
Yeah,
it, but they need it.
it's going a little far for me. But I think that we as the more knowledgeable bowlers, more knowledgeable fans, need to highlight those instances a little bit
Right.
more.
Yeah, a little
and
bit of
just
gamesmanship. Norm
yeah,
Duke would be
like
perfect at that.
I mean, like they have in darts, I would love to have an announcer on the loudspeaker while the guys are bowling. And I would love for the announcer to be like the announcer from an N1 street basketball game back in the day, where when somebody put a nasty crossover on somebody, he crossed him over. He crossed him over. What do you think about that? Oh, my God. I wish we could have an announcer there for bowling so that when Belmo takes a re-rack in the in the 10th frame on a meaningless rack, the announcer could be like, "Oh, he's freezing him. He's freezing him." And then the crowd could start to chant, "Re-rack, re-rack, re-rack." Maybe they should run up to the opponent and be like, "Yo, he's freezing you out. What do you think about that?" And give him the microphone. Let him, get his thoughts on that. Like, tell me that wouldn't make a more interesting show, entertaining show. I mean, come on, it would be madness. It would be madness out there. It would be madness. Okay?
I don't know about all that, but could you imagine? Oh, he put tape in his thumb hole. Did you see that? God, no.
Delay. Or like we could chant, gamesmanship. Like, how awesome would it be if the entire crowd knew what was really going on? That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the crowd seems like they're not 100. They're not 100% clear. It's to me that would be great, right?
Dude,
he's icing. Yes, lumber flexual. He's icing him out. He's icing him out. Oh my goodness. And just go over the top with it. I mean, I just think that there's a lot to that. People in the chat are saying that EJ's dad said boom. I don't. That's not what I heard. I heard him say you. Because EJ said, "Yeah, this is my time. This is my time," and I heard his dad say, "You." So I don't know. I mean, I'll go back and rewatch, and if he did say boom, good for him. Good for him. I love it. Let's create a rivalry.
Oh, you don't think if that was EJ Tackett, I would have boomed Belmo back? Oh, dude, and my boom would have been, I would have looked right at him. Boom.
Zangy with maybe the comment of the night. You need John Boy Media doing what's going on at the masses. Oh, what's going on at the Augusta? Yeah, no, I feel you on that. We need some more. We need some more hype like that in bowling. Charlie telling me to break my Prozacs in half. Come on, Charlie, let me have some fun, bro. Jesus. Let me have some fun.
All right, Mike. Let's get to our awards.
Great event, though. Oh my God, what a show today! Amazing. Yeah, awesome. Honestly, one of the best shows that I've ever seen. One of the best shows I've ever seen for the quality of stepladder, quality of play, quality of matches, drama, what was on the line. Honestly, I'm not so sure that we're going to see better than that. So, excellent performance by all these guys. Congratulations to them for their great bowling throughout the week. And it was just a star-studded show. So, all right, let's do our final rundown here, Rob, and then we'll get out of here. We got a couple categories to give awards for. Where you want to start? Let's start with ride, not ride.
What's going on at the Masters? Now I got that in my head.
What's going on at Augusta? I might have to break that out.
Speed next week for the play.
What's going on at the Players?
Speed -2.
yeah.
All right, let's go with ride with, not ride with. Okay, I'm gonna go with ride with first. Okay, because I've been on the Matt Ogle train.
I'm
riding with Matt Ogle, man. I'm riding with Matt
Ogle too.
We're both riding with Matt Ogle.
We're all crying on the way home. Okay.
Man, he finished 8th. No, he finished in the top 12 at the World Championship, right? Won his first title. My guy is going back to his. I can't imagine him having to go back to work Monday. I can't imagine having the 2 weeks he had at the World Series and then Monday morning your alarm going off at
Are you kidding?
whatever.
He's feeling good. He's got like an extra 30, 40K in his
I
pocket.
know, but going back to work Monday morning.
He's the business owner.
I know.
He's the business owner. He's probably going to just be supervising, driving around his truck all day, making sure things are getting done.
Yeah.
And he's got an extra 40 some grand in his pocket.
Yeah.
So good, good for him. But yeah, I'm riding with Matt Ogle, bro. I'm riding with Matt Ogle. I think out of anybody, granted, there's guys that had a better week, EJ, Simo, Butturff, etc. But he's got to be feeling great. I mean, that's got to be a hell of a ride home.
Top of the world.
I know Matt Ogle's very skinny, but you got to be eating good after that week. Got to be eating good after that week.
Shrimps, lobster, fillet.
Where are we going? Where are we going, son?
Man,
Let's find the nearest Ruth Chris and get there. Let's go.
Yo, you know how I do it.
I saw that post. Yes, no doubt.
Let's go.
High class living. This guy
living your life.
My podcast partner over here, bro. Don't let him front on you. He's loaded, bro. He's loaded. He claims claims broke. My man is loaded. Eating at Ruth Chris, balling out. All right. So my ride with was Matt Ogle too. My not ride with. Unfortunately, this is my boy. I like this guy. I have a line of communication with him outside the bowling thing.
Was it Simonson?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not riding on the way home with Simonson.
I the same one. Yo, could you imagine? Hey, Anthony, can we pull over, man? I gotta use the bathroom.
No comment.
No comment.
Yo,
Anthony,
you wanna stop at a rest stop and grab a bite? No comment.
No comment. Yo, okay. Hey, you want to change your song? I got this track. You got no comment. Fuck, man. So yeah, I picked the same not ride with. It's so funny. We don't talk before these awards. We pick literally the same ride with and the same not ride with.
For the same reasons too. For the same reasons as well. And it's so telling too, because Simo had an amazing week. Like any other guy in the building other than Tackett and Belmo, okay? Other than Tackett and Belmo, Charlie Tapp with the comment saying, ride home on the back of Joe Grondin's Vespa. Anybody that's not named Tackett, Belmo, or Butturff, okay? Or Ogle, I'll say, right? Tackett, Belmo, Butturff, or Ogle would have been thrilled to have the week that Anthony Simonson had this week at the World Series. But from Simonson's perspective, it's probably somewhat of a disappointment. So it goes to show you how good he is that's the case.
Yeah, and I think let's just call it as it is. So someone asked me in the chat here why we didn't pick, Sleepy Sam Cooley as a not ride with. That's a default not ride with in general. So you could just put him every week because you don't want to ride with Sleepy Sam. But yeah, okay. So next.
All right, let's go. I see you, Hoss.
Oh, that's easy. I think we picked the same person. I guarantee we did. Yo, Nathan Bohr, bro.
No, I didn't pick him.
Nathan Bohr.
I picked him. I see you, Hoss. Nah, he's milk carton.
Milk carton, I see you, Hoss. No,
he's
I have
milk
another
carton. Milk carton for me. I mean, you really rarely see his name up top. And, he's there. He was there in a few instances this week.
I see you, though, Nathan Bohr, man, making a run for the World Championship, man. Yo, I know Nathan Bohr. I bowled college against him. He bowled for Wichita when we bowled. Always the most nicest, most respectful kid. Always, never a bad thing to say about anybody. And, keep grinding, my man. We want to see you. I want to see you get on TV.
Santu was a good pick for ICU Hoss as well.
Santu was a good pick.
But I feel like he's been there. I want Brian M. Who are you saying? What's clueless? What's wow clueless? Terry Runyon saying he's not riding with Team USA after that shit performance last weekend at the World Team. I didn't see that. I'm not even aware of what you're referring to there, Terry.
Oh, what do you mean? Them winning 2 points, Team USA?
Oh. Okay, sorry. I thought he meant like there was some international competition.
You know what the Team USA exhibition against?
Yeah.
You know what that reminded
USA
me
versus
of?
the world. Yeah.
You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of Rocky IV when Ivan Drago fought Apollo Creed, and Apollo Creed was Team USA, and Ivan Drago was Team World. That's what that reminded me of. What a beating that was.
All right, so I see you, Hoss. I'm giving it to Matt Kuba.
Kuba Steve.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Matt Kuba because that was a name that, out of all the guys in the top, let's say 25 or so, that was the one name that stuck out to me as a name that you don't regularly see in the top of the standings. Who's not a regular name out there, right? Who's not an award winner of some kind out there. So for I See You, Hoss, I would give it to Matt Kuba. Now, I already said my milk carton was Nathan Bohr. Out there a lot, but you often don't see his name at the top of the standings. This week you did. You got a milk carton?
I do. It's going to be the Sam Rothstein of Sweep the Rack, PJ Haggerty.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one.
PJ Haggerty, man. My guy works full-time, financial advisor. He's got kids, twins. My guy is still showing up to the World Series, making it through PTQs, and finishing in around, I think, 60 something out of 120 total bowlers, I believe, in the World Series. It was 120 bowlers, and my guy finished, I believe it was like 66. So, yo, man, PJ still grinding. Love to see him out there. I would love to see him out there full time, to be honest with you.
No doubt. We got Lumber Flexual pointing out he finished in 66. We still got to give love to our guy, bro. We're still going to show love.
He's milk carton, man. Milk carton.
All right, let's go. Spare shooter. All right, go ahead.
I'm actually going the opposite on this one. We normally pick the people who have missed spares or have a bad spare miss. I'm giving mine to EJ Tackett because my guy made 80 for 80 10 pins. Yo, Mike, he made 100% of the 10 pins he shot the last 2 weeks. I don't care if you're the best in the world, Mike. To make all 80 10 pins in a tournament for 2 weeks is unbelievable. For a guy who throws it like he throws it with the power and the rev rate, for him to be that good of a spare shooter just really puts the cherry on the sundae, in my opinion.
I got to give it to Matt Ogle.
Oh, for missing the 10 pin?
Yeah, not only for missing the 10 pin,
but that's so harsh,
for
bro.
redeeming him. For redeeming himself and making 2 10 pins to actually win, especially when he balked on the one that he really needed to lock up the title, which was pretty amazing. So I'm going to give spare shoota to Matt Ogle as well. I'll be honest, I thought about giving it to Bill O'Neill for the same reason that you were talking about, because imagine, Bill made the finals of the World Championship without making any of the pattern shows, okay? And, he really didn't, there were blocks or stretches of blocks where he whacked them this week, but didn't really whack them a lot like some guys did. And he still, hung in there and made the top 10 of the World Championship. So imagine how aced his spare shooting had to be to stay in it, at that level when you're not as hot as some of the guys above you, So I considered him, but yeah, Matt Ogle for the 10 pins, obviously.
Yeah, for missing and making it.
Yeah.
Okay. Dumpster diving. I gotta give it to Ronnie Russell. My dumpster diving. 87th out of 120. And the hard part, I was looking at the website on the stats when I was doing my dumpster diving, and it didn't give you a clear indication of who withdrew. And obviously, I don't want to pick somebody who withdrew due to like an injury.
Right.
And guys like Smallwood and Doherty.
I got the withdrawal list here: Doherty, Martin Larson, Toby Sambueno, Brandon Novak, Smallwood, Malat, Jones, David Stouffer, Sean Lavery, Spar, Nate Garcia, Tommy Tax, Zach Gentile. But again, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I avoid that.
Yeah. So to me, like the biggest name that I could find in the lower brackets was in the low dumpster diving was Ronnie Russell and Ildemaro Ruiz. Those are the two names.
I'm giving it to the person that finished last for the 60 games, but bowled all 60 games. Okay. And that's Zulaiman Zulkifli.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the reason that I'm giving it to Zuleman is because not only did they finish last for the 60 games, but they traveled all the way from Malaysia to do so. Shake
But
it
he
off, Hoss.
but he made it through PTQ, so like you got to think that's like at least some like that's a great week for him. I would imagine, right?
I don't know about that, bro. Traveling all the way from Malaysia to make it through the PTQ just to finish last in the regular field, bro.
Um,
I don't know, bro. I mean, that's a long way to travel to finish last, Rob.
I'm not going to disagree with you there.
You're a day and a half, 2 day travel by plane away from home, bro. And you're finishing dead last.
Yeah,
That's rough, bro.
he probably stayed here. He probably he probably didn't even go home after that. He probably just decided he wasn't coming home. They probably pulled his visa.
I considered Greg Tack.
Oh, that would have been
that's my
hilarious.
guy.
Yeah,
That's my guy, and he was down there in the standings as well. But
how did that work out for you?
This was not it was like Greg Tack's first national professional event.
I know,
and I'm not going to hate on my boy, so I got to give it to Zuleman Zulkifli. Sorry, Zuleman.
That's hilarious.
Maybe next year.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, Mike. Did we miss anything, or I think we got all topics?
No, I think we got everything, man. I think we're good. We did a little bit of overtime here for the people, but I think this show deserved it. I think this show was deserving of it.
It was a great show.
It was an amazing show. It's kind of anticlimactic to me now because like this show was so heavy with the way it was going to impact how the season turns out that I feel like this was the penultimate event of the season. And from here it's a little bit downhill. But listen, we're still going to enjoy the action. Next tournament, baby.
Yeah, Jersey.
Coming out to Carolier, coming out to Jersey. Your boy's going to be in the building as much as I can be. It's crazy too because my week that week just keeps getting busier and busier and busier and busier.
You're so
and
busy.
I'm worried that my time at the tournament is going to be limited. But yeah, I will definitely. I can say this for anybody local who's listening that wants to come out and hang. I will definitely be there Friday. Okay, and we'll talk about this later as well as we get closer to that week. But I'll definitely be there on Friday. First of all, let me say this: Rob's not coming out. I hate to ruin everybody's time. Don't blame me. Blame this guy here. Okay, he's got every excuse in the book. Some legitimate, some I feel like are not. But he's got every excuse in the book. Okay, so he's not coming out.
Boo this man.
Boo. Oh, boo this man. Yes.
Boo this man.
I even offered him a free place to stay. Not coming out. Okay. So you talk to your boy about that. That's not me. All right. And, I will be there on Friday of that week. Definitely. I'll be there all day. I'm going to take off that Friday and go and watch the whole day. And I will absolutely be there on Saturday as well for the start of the finals. So, catch me over there. Let me know. I know Jimmy's coming out. The Ringing 10 is coming out. So, we're going to link up definitely. And, I'm hoping I see some of the Sweep the Rack people over there at Carolier. Still planning to tailgate Friday, Saturday. I'll still be in the parking lot. I'll still be hanging out. If anybody wants to come out, definitely come out.
We have to talk if we're going to be doing a show this week. I don't know. There's really not a lot going on here this Thursday, so we might have to talk about maybe punting it for maybe next Sunday, depending.
When do anybody know when the ITC show comes on air? The college championship show. If that's this week, then that might be a reason for us to come on and
I don't know.
We'll do a little something. But we'll update everybody and we'll let people know. Jimmy has a nice dinner coming from me. I can tell you that. We're going somewhere nice. Okay, we're going somewhere nice. Or if you want me to, I'll drive you down to Philly and I'll get you a legit Philly cheesesteak if you want. But if we're staying in Jersey, we're going somewhere absolutely nice for a good meal. That's all me, guys. Looking forward to the tour coming to Carolier, coming to Jersey. Can't wait. Until then, have a good week. Good luck to everybody wrapping up their league season over the next week or two, okay? And follow us on social media. I'm at the 215th. He's at Brooklyn Rob 11. We'll be active on there. Give us a like and a follow if you haven't already. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us out. And Rob, we will update the people on when we'll be back. Yes.
Yes, sir. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob